Striker Scorpion 82 is now sponsored by Warhammer Combat Cards, a card battle game featuring your favourite Citadel miniatures from the 40k universe. Free to download and play, link is in the video description below or on the channel homepage, and by using the unique link it helps support the channel. Thanks and enjoy the game. Right, welcome to this terrain tutorial. A lot of people have been asking about my new jungle terrain, so I thought I'd put a video together. And instead of making individual videos on each piece of terrain, this video here will show you how to do this entire setup. So what you see in front of you, you can replicate this. I'll show you all the steps involved, all the materials that you need, all the processes as well, so that you can achieve the same result for your own games of 40k or other gaming systems as well. You can use this for 40k, but also can use it for other gaming systems also. But it'll be the full lowdown here in this video. So battle mats, terrain, the construction of these vegetation clumps here as well, painting and finishing the ruins and the walls. So all of that will be covered in this video, even down to the scatter and lichen and so on. We'll talk about the whole thing. I'll give you a whole breakdown, and there's no reason why you can't replicate what you see here on camera for your own games of 40k. So as I'm going to do walkthroughs on the vegetation and the buildings, walls that you see here, but the foundation for this terrain, the first starting point, is the battle mat. So this battle mat is from gamemat.eu, so the link for them will be in the video description below. This one is 6x4 in size. It's like an Eldar type ruins here. You've got the green and the desert colours going on, but it's also got some like Eldar runes marked on the board as well. And so the rest of the terrain, you're trying to get to match in with the mat to tie the whole thing together. So you're noticing that the tones and shades that are being used are matching really nicely with the battle mats. The battle mats here, they're made from this mouse mat material. This one's 6x4 in size. Our games are 40k at the moment for 9th edition. We just mark out a boundary here with these pipes just to get the correct size for Strike Force size games. But gamemat.eu now do a wide variety of shapes and sizes for battle mats, and also what's good value from them is the double-sided mats that are available as well. So you actually get, instead of one printed design and then the black rubber just underneath, you get a design printed on both sides. So you're actually getting two designs in the one mat. But check out gamemat.eu, a very wide variety of battle mats available from them now. And really that is the foundation for the rest of the terrain that goes on top. So I'm sure that's the foundation, that's the start, and then you place your terrain on top of that, whether it's ruins, walls, jungle, foliage and so on. But the mat is your starting point. Good thing about the battle mats is they roll out nice and flat, just as soft rubber material, so that there's no bumps and creases here, which is a great thing about these. They're nice and quiet for dice rolling as well, so when you're rolling your dice there's not the clattering sound. And if you've got models that are quite precious as well and you want to look after them, then if they fall over on the battle mat, it's not as abrasive as other more solid terrain that you may use, so very figure friendly as well with the battle mat. So that's the starting point. So battle mat is the first foundation here, or the first item for this terrain setup that you'll need. So this mat is called Lost World. That's the title of this mat. So you'll find that on the gamemat.eu website. Link for that in the video description below. So that's the whole board. Next up, we'll take you through each of the elements here that make up this final setup. So I'll run through each part next. Okay, so I'm going to work my way through all the elements involved that build up the battle mat. There's smaller details, larger terrain pieces and so on. The idea is you're trying to make a battle mat or a terrain setup that's playable for your games of 40k. So you're going to need line of sight blocking terrain. There's other features like objectives and things for people to go after, different types of terrain, and to make the table as nice and realistic looking, something fun to fight across as well. So there's two elements of this jungle theme. There's ancient ruins that I've got in the form of this building here, and then the walls, and then also these large clusters of foliage that I've put together as well. So we're going to break down all of these, show you how to put together the whole lot so you can reproduce the terrain setup that you see on the screen. So before I run through details about this one, As I've chosen a set of spray paints to act as my sort of foundational colours that I've used on a number of elements throughout the terrain setup. You're trying to get your terrain to link together, so the whole thing feels like it should all be together on the battlefield, not randomly painted stuff that just doesn't fit. The terrain doesn't match the battle mat. One piece of terrain doesn't look like it belongs to another piece of terrain. You want the whole thing to be harmonious, to look like it all belongs together. So to do that, you can link in with the same sort of paints and sprays and use them throughout the project. For the battle mat, then you're looking at the colours involved. You can see them there in the top part of the screen. So there's some green going on, there's some browns and some sand sort of colours. So those kind of colours I'm then trying to bring into the terrain. So, because when you get hold of this from GameMat.eu, it doesn't come in this colour scheme, it comes in grey, so I've actually resprayed this to match in with my terrain setup. So, spray paint's nice and straightforward. I use 3 different colours from Army Painter. So leather brown, this is your darker shading going on with this colour, so leather brown. Then sort of a mid-tone, which is this colour here, which is desert yellow. And you can start to see the colours matching in with the battle mat colour scheme. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get sort of a uniform colour across the board for terrain, battle mat and so on. And then sort of a highlight colour, dusting sort of highlight colour, and that's your skeleton bone, also available from Army Painter. So sprays are fast, you can apply your colour quickly, you can do some shading with them, don't need an airbrush, hardly any brush work required, and so you can get some very, very quick results. I've found with terrain, especially in recent times, is I'm trying to paint up armies, paint up units, and I'd love to spend loads of time on terrain, but I can't. But at the same time, I want nice terrain to play games on, and it makes a massive difference to your games of 40k or any wargaming system. Nice terrain makes a huge difference, so I encourage you to do that. It's a very enjoyable part of the hobby, and it's great to paint up your army and then play across a nice board. And the idea of this video is to show that it's actually very achievable in a very short space of time. And the key for speed is these sprays, which I'll explain as we go along. There's more materials just to key everything in to protect your terrain a bit more. Then varnish, I use Munitorum varnish from Games Workshop. It just gives that sort of matte satin kind of finish. So it enriches the colours, but at the same time it's not glossy, so I think that's about the best varnish that there is out there at the moment. So I give my terrain a light spray of that just to tie it all in, add a layer of protection. I do a little bit of shading, a little bit of brush work, but hardly any really. So I just one colour I recommend, and that's Seraphim Sepia. This is a little shade colour, so I've got a big pot of that, because you'll get through a fair bit for terrain. Just for sticking stuff together, PVA glue. So be careful what glue you get a hold of. PVA is better than, sometimes you get like a tub of what's called like wood glue, but that can dry very stiff and it can shatter and so on. Not so good. PVA's got a bit of flex to it, so I'd highly recommend this glue just here. And you can just get that from, this is £4, and one this size will last for a long time, so not too costly. For tufts, which you'll see here, I've put onto the terrain, then you can get a hold of these. So these ones are actually from Green Stuff World. They do a nice range, but you can equally get a hold of these very easily from eBay. I do use eBay a fair bit, just searching for different terrain options. So this is realistic grain 6mm static grass tufts. So 6mm is the size of the grass, or the length of the static bits for those. You can get longer, you can get like 12mm if you want longer grass, which may well suit that as well, or shorter grass, whatever you want to go for. All different shades available, so pick what you want. Again, you're trying to match the colour in with the terrain, generally speaking, but there's different types of green available. So Green Stuff World or eBay, just as good. And then I have a shorter grain static grass here. So this is shorter grain stuff. This one is called Verdant Green, that's from a company called TSS. I use that across virtually all my basing for my models. If you see green flock being used on any of my models, then it's the Verdant Green that I've been using. So I'll put a link for that as well. They're based in the UK, they make terrain, Total System Scenic they're called, but Verdant Green is the name of the shade for that static grass, but I'll put a link for that. A lot of people ask about what static grass to use. So you can use them, or you can, again, look on eBay, or go to your model shop, or use one of the static grass tubs that Games Workshop produce. There's plenty of options, different shades of green, whatever you prefer. There's no real strict sort of colour you have to use. It's entirely your choice, but you're generally trying to match the colours generally together, so just to get that harmonious feel across your terrain setup. So again, just before I come to this, small details. There's a few little details I want to talk about as well, and these are things that can link your terrain to the board. So you've got a terrain piece like this, place it on the table, it matches with the colour of the battle map, but what about the little details around the edges that can just blend the whole thing and just, again, try and make it feel like it belongs on the table. This rune's been there for hundreds, thousands of years, and you just want to try and create that impression with your setups. There's a few little touches that you can do that can just make all the massive difference, and again, hardly any effort involved, but you can get maximum impact from it. So the first thing I use is a bit of scatter, and I use lichen. So a little tuft of it just here. So this is just in this shade just here. Again, there's no specific colour you have to go for. Again, you're trying to get the colour to match up with your terrain as much as possible. I'll use this lichen on a variety of different terrain setups. So you'll see it on the jungle terrain, you'll see it on the desert terrain, so it's, you can use it for a number of different setups. But when you're placing your terrain on the board, I then just use a bit of lichen just to blend the whole thing in, and the battle mat will be underneath that, and that just merges the whole thing nicely in with the board. But you'll see it, we'll go back and have a look at the board a bit later on for the final setup. So where to get lichen from? Again, you can have a look for it on eBay. Sometimes when you're buying something online, the shade as what is shown on screen is different when it arrives in the post. You've got to be a little bit aware of that, so be careful in that regard. You may get a tone that you think, oh, that's nice standard green. It comes through the post, it's like a fluorescent green. You think, oh no, what have I done? So watch out for that. So sometimes you might want to buy a smaller packet to test it out, and you think, yeah, that's great. So then you go back to the same eBay store and then buy a larger bulk order of it once you know exactly what you're getting through the post. Other places to go is your local hobby shop, railway shop. They'll stock these kind of things. I used to go to my local hobby store and get bags of lichen. In fact, they used to do quite large bags for a pretty good price. So it's a case of looking around in your local hobby store for that. Or again, at eBay, you can search for lichen on there. And really, it's not that expensive, and a good sized bag of lichen will last you for years and years. You'll be able to use it for all different terrain setups. So lichen, highly recommended to use it all the time for the terrain that I do. Storage wise, so this is quite soft here, and to keep it soft there's got to be some moisture involved to a degree. So for example, if you've got a dry room and you leave the lichen out for days and weeks, it will dry out and crumble and fall apart. So we play our games, pack up, bag it up, and it just stays fresh and soft every time. So just watch out for that, just for the preservation and keeping it in good condition. If it ever does dry up, then you can reintroduce a bit of moisture onto it, and it will go soft again. So it's quite an amazing material. But that's the lichen. The next stage, so I've blended that in just there. The next little touch that I do is stones and scatter. So here's a selection of stones. I just got these from a beach whilst I was on holiday and collected a few of those. You can buy stones in. I try and get them from a natural source if you can, because these haven't been sifted, they haven't been sieved, and so you've got the natural variety. You've got small stones, large stones, odd shapes and so on. So it's much more natural look. If they come pre-packed from like a quarry, they've been sieved, filtered, cleaned, and so they look a bit too uniform for my liking. So I like the random sort of natural kind of look. These actually came in sort of shades of like pinks and reds, just from the beach that they came from. So what you can do, as the ultimate way to match everything in, is I take a tray of the stones, I spread them out, I actually start spraying the stones with the sprays. And so you're then guaranteed to have the stones matching exactly with your terrain. So I give them a spray of that, shake the stones about, move them around, then give them a little light spray of the brown here and there, just sort of not all the way across the ball, but just sort of zigzag across, flip them round, stir them up, go for another shade of those three sprays, and just keep rotating them around until you get a result. That'll take you 5 minutes to do that, and then you'll get stones that will match in with the terrain absolutely perfectly. When the game finishes, I bag the stones up in a bag and keep them separate from other stones, and then whenever I'm using that terrain setup, I'll bring out the appropriately coloured stones. Now, if I'm doing an industrial terrain setup in a city, I'll spray them shades of grey. So same stones, but being sprayed up to match in with the terrain. So that's another trick that I've done. I've done it for some of the urban battles. I've now sprayed up a specific set of stones to use for my desert terrain as well. Easily done. So easy to do. And then what you do is you just use the stones with the lichen and then blend it in. And on the map, that'll just blend the terrain in nicely with the board. And for what kind of effort? Hardly any effort at all, and you've got yourself a nice realistic finish. So there's another finishing touch that you can do, and this is if you really want to add in some realism and just make the terrain look like it's a 40k terrain setup, and that's your random accessories painted up. So you've got some spares from model kits that you've made. It's great when you get spare weapons. Here's a recruit rifle, spare las gun, and for these, and a broken door from a Space Marine Rhino. That's part of a Lehman Russ tank, I believe. That's a cut up piece from a again a Razorback or a Rhino as well. So you notice I don't want to spend too much effort on these. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but they look fantastic on the board. Just really add some nice realism. So I just spray them silver, throw some washes across them, Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade, and then just give them a dust of silver. So I would use Iron Breaker as the paint for that. If you can paint a little bit more detail, and if you so wish. So a bit of black around the las gun there, a bit of brown on the Recruit hunting rifle, but very quickly. You don't want to spend too much time, but those scattered on the board as well, just left in random places. Adds some real nice realism to your terrain setup as well. And again, easily done. You can bag them up at the end of the game, and you can use these on any terrain setup that you want. So you can individually pick them up, or you can just leave them mixed in with the stones. So whenever you just get the scatter out, all the weapons and bits and pieces are mixed in with it already. You just move them, throw them out across the board. You can pick out the weapons and just leave them scattered about in key places. You can also paint little dioramas, little casualties and so on. This model here is actually from the Space Hulk. No, it's not actually. That is from one of the Tyrannid monster kits. It actually comes as part of the base, but I took the model away from the base, put a rock underneath the foot of the monster instead, and then painted him up separately. So I can place him randomly around the board as well, just to add a bit of realism to your terrain setup. These things are easily done, and I'd highly recommend doing it. It's very worthwhile just to really add to the realism of your terrain setup. So not much effort at all. So onto the main terrain piece. And I've put this in the middle. This is sort of the main terrain feature, this rune temple. So this is called a Gothic Temple. It's from GameMet.eu. So the whole thing comes as one piece, and it's pre-painted in sort of an industrial sort of grey colour. So it came with black and then grey, and then like a highlighted effect on it as well. So pre-painted, you can use it straight away. If you're playing in city terrain, then that's the colour scheme that's already there, so it works fine. I wanted to match this in with my jungle terrain setup, and to do this, what you see here, to change this thing around colour scheme wise and to add on all the effects, you're looking at about half an hour. 30 minutes will get you the results that you see just here. So the way to do it is to take let's walk you through it here. Darker shade, so the leather brown. I then spray that into the recesses and the corners. I spray up from underneath to catch around here. You'll see the darker tone around here. Spraying through here, spraying around the well, spraying right into all the crevices as much as possible. And that's your darker shade done, spraying to the windows and so on. Now I don't go too solid on it. So a little bit of grey, a little bit of the original is still in there. So I'm not going to go for a solid spray. I'm not trying to eliminate entirely that shading and work that's already been done. Just most of 80% coverage you're looking for. So that's that darker tone done. I then move on to the mid-tone, and I'll spray down on that one, sort of coming in from this kind of angle, rotating the terrain piece around, and just sort of light sprays as you're building up the shade. And what you're doing is, as you're hitting it here, it's covering this part but leaving the shaded areas down here. So I'm not spraying down on the bottom part, I'm not spraying up from underneath, I'm sort of spraying that kind of angle down, and then just going around, rotating the whole thing around. And then the final finish is your highlight, which again will just be the spray, so skeleton bone, and just again coming in at that kind of angle, just gently going around, and then just coating the whole thing, sort of a dusting of that tone. You can do as much or as little as you want, but the idea is that those three colours with the spray will just start to blend nicely and you get that effect. Once that's done, as your colour scheme completely shifted, that spraying will take you about 5 minutes. The way they dry, I would spray them almost just one after the next, because a larger terrain piece like this, so I'd go around, do the darker shade, and then immediately just go onto the mid-tone, and then virtually straight after that just do the highlight straight away as well. So you can spray the whole thing in one go, even though you're using a number of different colours. Once that's completely dry, which won't take very long, I then, and again, the key is not to spend too long on this. You want to just go for a bit of effect, but not spend ages. So you could go down the route of painting all the cracks and crevices with this shade, but it's too much work and there's no point in doing it. It probably wouldn't look that great either, because it looks like you've gone around and painted the whole thing. So I just take this shade here and then just randomly work it into a few of the corners, scrub it into the window there, run it down here, tuck it into the corner, a bit on the steps, a bit around the well, inside the well just there, and then again spend about 10 minutes doing that, just to add in another shade and a bit of effect being added on with that. But the key with the terrain is not to spend ages and ages to get sucked in and spending forever painting your terrain, but to get your effects nice and quick, to get a great finish in sort of a time-saving fashion. So once that's done, and you must let it dry entirely, because the flock will get stuck as if it's still wet, so let that dry perhaps the next day, come back to the project. And what I was looking to do is introduce a little bit of the greenery, so that it looks like it belongs in the jungle, so a bit of growth here in regards to the grass and so on. So that's the finishing touch of this. So for that I'm using the two elements involved. It's your static grass clumps and then your shorter grain verdant green grass here as well. So just using an old brush, and then I pour out some of the PVA glue onto my mixing palette. I take the clumps of grass, I dip them in the blob of PVA and then just plant them on the terrain piece. So I sort of cluster them around here. There's a few tufts grown in that area there, a few there's a few around by the well, a couple I've tucked into the corner of the steps just there. And then again, using the old brush, just start dabbing on PVA glue in clusters, trying to make it look as natural as possible. Use photographs for reference if you want, and then just sprinkling the flock on top, giving it a good tap to help it settle, and just tipping it up, tapping off the spare and then saving that, and then just blowing off the excess, and you'll get something looking like that. Honestly, hardly any effort involved with that at all. It's about half an hour, 30 minutes work, and you've completely changed the terrain piece around. You've added on some nice effects, you've done your shading, and you've got your static grass in two different sizes there as well, and you've created a nice jungle terrain piece to use. And it's pre-painted terrain, so it's built for you. Just unbox it and you can use it straight away, but a little bit of extra effort, you can get it to match in with your terrain set up perfectly. So those colours that I've shown you, that whole process will get you the result that you see just here. And again, if I hold it up to the mat, you've got a nice match in there as well. And then to really finish it off is your lichen and your stones that are sprayed up to match this as well, and the whole thing's nicely harmonious. So what I've talked about there with this is exactly the same process with the Gothic Walls. So again, from GameMat.eu, it's the Gothic Wall set. So you get a good few pieces with this one here. Again, it's pre-paint or pre-built terrain and pre-painted. It comes in the Gothic City Fight colour scheme, so it's like the grey tones, the same kind of process used for the Gothic Ruin. So it's again same process, spraying underneath with the darker tone, spraying down with the mid-tone, and then just flicking a highlight across with the skeleton bone to finish it off, and then just running the brush down and running it along here with the Seraphim Sepia. Once that's dry, same process, just adding on my tufts and my verdant green like so. And again, very quick to get that finish. And again, your terrain colours will match in with the terrain setup nice and straightforward. So and that's the thing about this tutorial, is to show you how to get a great finish in a very short space of time, and you've got yourself a lovely terrain setup. Because for the terrain, yes, you want jungle and so on, but you want some kind of feature, something central, something to draw the eye, you know, a theme running with the terrain. So it's not just pure jungle, there's something to look at, something to fight over, something to put an objective in it, or a relic or something. So, you know, it's a simple ruin and a few walls, that's that sorted out. So you're still keeping the general jungle theme, but there's a nice feature as a focal point for your terrain piece as well. It's sort of you're creating a story with your terrain by adding in that ruin. Right, so the next stage, really the main bulk of this terrain is the jungle effect. So I pulled out one of the pieces here from the terrain setup. So just showing you how this looks. I think it looks fantastic, and the time process is minutes. It's going to take you minutes to put this together. No painting involved in this whatsoever. You've got yourself a nice base here, entirely natural looking. Look at it, fantastic look to it. Let's rotate this round. You've got lush green plants in all shapes and sizes, and there's no painting involved whatsoever. So, you know, skill wise, virtually nothing. You can put this together and the work's been done for you. It's just a case of assembling and finding the right materials, which I'll guide you through. So I'm going to give you the materials to look for, and if you check out the video description below, and also it should be in the comment section, I'll link out to some places where you can search these things and get a hold of the right materials. So what I'll do is I'm going to deconstruct this for you, just to show you, because this isn't fixed in place. This can all be removed. So if I get a breakage, then I can just refix in place. So we'll just break this down and show you how this works. And I'm showing you one piece, but this is the same process involved for all of these terrain pieces here. So this, I may end up putting this back together, not in in a different order to what it was originally, but it really doesn't matter. So we'll just take these pieces out. And again, this is the idea behind the video, to show you an easy process. So the terrain setup that you've seen at the start of the video, and we'll see a bit later on, you can replicate that exactly. And the idea is that you can do that with not much effort. So the first piece is your foundation, which is this piece here. So this is mixed cork bark. So I've been looking up, trying to remember how I've got a hold of this stuff. So again, I went on eBay for this one. Now these kind of things are very accessible because people use this kind of stuff for exotic animal tanks. So someone's got geckos or lizards or a snake, then this is the kind of stuff they put in their tank. Some of you watching may use this kind of stuff. This is actually cork bark. So if I flip this over, it's cork bark that's been ripped off from the tree. And so you just search that, mixed cork bark, search that on eBay. I've just had a look on there, there's loads of different sellers. So just to guide you through the process here, just a few things to watch out for. Check the size of what they're selling. What you see on the picture may not be what you're expecting to get in the post. So try and check the size. Sometimes you'll see, you think, oh, that's a nice piece, and you buy it, and you expect it to be that big. In fact, it's only that big. So you're looking for larger pieces. This one here I've actually broken. This was a larger piece that came through the post, and so I smashed it into 3 pieces, I think, for this one here. But when you break it, you got these brilliant effects here. And I think it's got a nice sort of rock kind of finish to it. And so you're creating a foundation with no painting required. You've got yourself your base, your completely natural shading across the whole thing. And with it being the bark, you can break it up and you've got sort of a flat foundation here as well. So it's a great material to work with as well. I can drill into it nice and quick, insert the foliage pieces into it nice and quickly. No gluing required, I just drill and fit them into place as well, so no work required in that regard as well. Not too expensive, you get a good few size pieces of it. You'll pay a bit out for it, but that's going to fill out your terrain board nicely for you. So you can go to eBay. If you know of an aquarium shop or a exotic pet store, then they may well be stocking these things as well. And the great thing is when you can physically go to a shop, you can physically check what you're buying before you get a hold of it, which is, you know, preferable if possible. So that's the kind of places to go. Anywhere that's selling exotic animals, then they should have those kind of accessories for the animal tanks available. So mixed cork bark is the keywords you're searching for on eBay if you're going to try and get a hold of this stuff online. Or you can Google search it to see if there's pet stores online that are selling it as well, but eBay again is the place I've gone to and got a hold of these bark sets. Also, sometimes you'll get it where it's been cut by machines. You've got like a clean cut on it, which isn't too preferable, so you might, when you get hold of it, I want to break it up a little bit. Other times it comes pretty sort of natural looking, not cut up, so again, that's something to look out for as you're searching for the pieces that you need. But I would highly recommend check the sizes before you buy, just to make sure you're getting a good size piece. So rules wise for 40k, we ignore the foliage, and then we play this as obscuring terrain, which is quite crucial for games of 40k to let units have a good chance of hiding, and we just run the hard edge of the cork here. So that's where the obscuring terrain begins, just at the hard edge there and here, and then just run straight up. So anything beyond that hard edge, behind that hard edge, counts as being behind obscuring terrain. It's a nice simple way of playing it, so that can act as the foundation for the rules for 40k there for that terrain piece. So moving on, there's no prep here. There's no spraying, highlighting, inks, washes and so on. There's nothing to do, so you just get a hold of your random pieces, break them up, and then just get straight into putting the foliage on. As far as the foliage is concerned, this stuff has come from all different places, from different countries, different stores. Again, if you go to your aquatic centre, then they should be stocking these kind of things. I didn't get any of these from eBay. They are on eBay because I've just looked to see if they're on there, but all of these actually came from shops, different places. So again, if you are going to go onto eBay, the keywords to look out for is artificial fish tank landscape plants. I'll link that below so you could search for it. You can go on Google and search for it if you want, or you can go onto eBay. But I've just been on eBay. There's so much variety to choose from. Again, check the sizes to make sure you know what you're getting a hold of. Preferably, it's somewhere in a shop you can go to so you can physically look at the plants. Because sometimes you get a hold of an artificial plant, the leaves are huge and it wouldn't look right on the board. I've gone for stuff that's more of a finer kind of finish. I'll maybe zoom in so you can see. I'm a big fan of this stuff. So look at this one. You've got that satin lush finish. It's in flexible plastic, so it's going to take a beating. You know, you're not going to break it. It's not going to snap. It's not going to chip. If you store it away properly and away from the sun, then it's going to keep its colour. It's not going to fade. There's no varnishing involved. There's no paints involved. There's no shading. It's pre-done for you, and I think the effect is fantastic. Some amazing artificial plants available now that you can get a hold of. So this one in particular, actually came in a ball. It was like a fake plant to hang outside your front door, and it actually came in like a large ball. I then broke that up, cut it up, and where it was affixed to that ball, then it came in individual pieces like this, like so. There's not too much to that. So what it is, it's got a hole just there where I pulled it off of where it was fixed to, and these are just matchsticks. That's all you need. And matchsticks are about one of the cheapest things you get hold of. So I just took the head off, cut it to that size, and then just to make a sort of a good shrub out of this, I just slide on a number of these. And you know, sometimes the matchstick will break. You're playing a game, you drop a tank on top of your terrain, a matchstick breaks, but you just pull it out, take a new matchstick, fix it back in, and away you go. You know, damages are easily fixed, but I've put 4 of those on that one matchstick, bit of length from there to plant it in the terrain. I've got myself a nice cluster just there, and I think the effect of these, the detail on these things is fantastic. So that one I got from a you know, you get like the cheap shops that you can go into in the high street, so you get like you know, where you can get hold of cheap household accessories. Often they have a section with fake household plants, and most of the time you'll see something that doesn't really fit, but occasionally you walk past and say, wow, that plant would look great, it would fit really well in a game of 40k, and so I've got a hold of it, and then I've sort of collected sort of random ones from different places, and then when you pull them all together you get brilliant variety. So that's that one. And that large ball, I've used that, I've spread that across the whole board, and so good usage for that one. This one was actually a fake bonsai plant. It was a whole tree in a fake pot and stones, and then this whole fake tree. I just pulled all the leaves off because these plants just look little jungle plants, and then just attached them to individual matchsticks. In other cases, I just kept like a whole branch section and just left it in place, and then just used a bit of wire to attach a whole branch cluster to the terrain piece. These I got from when I was on holiday in Australia. Again, went to a random cheap product shop for households. They had a fake plant section, saw those, thought they looked fantastic, so I got a hold of those, brought them home. Actually came on large lengths, just for a large aquatic setup. So I just simply, there's wire running through these, so I just simply cut them up, and that's all the effort required with those. Again, got these from Australia, different type of finish, and that's about it for that setup. It's a different shade. Notice there are different shades going on. You can see a slight difference, so variety is great. So I've got a hold of a few of those. So if you're going to plant them, sometimes they'll come ready wired, so that's strong enough just to go straight in, no prep involved with that. If not, often they've got a small base or a small hole just there, and I found that a matchstick fits just perfect, so I set them up like so. You want something so you can plant it into the terrain. So I'll see if I can find the holes on this. Once you drill your holes and you look for, there's one just there, so I'm going to plant that one in, push it in. You do need to pre-drill the holes. The bark is soft, but I'm going to try and prepare the way for it going in. And this one can go in here. So this will be in a different order, but it doesn't really matter. I'll maybe go there, like so. And then we'll put this little one in here, like so. One in there. Another one in there. Starting to fill it out nicely. Just run our way along here. That's fine. And then this one. Filling out nicely. And I'll see if I can get this one on the end. So you use individual plants, but then when you start mixing it all up, fantastic variety here. Tuck that one in there. Yeah, I'm not so keen with that one. I'll tuck him in there instead. That's better. And then around the edges, just the individual little plants. So I'll put them in there. That one. Now remember, these are holes that have already been pre-drilled from when I did this earlier on, so you'll need to drill these just with a drill bit. Just tuck these in. Nearly done. I guess I'm showing you the speed at which you can get this effect. Like so. So there it is. So you've got your line of sight blocking terrain. We play obscure, you don't have to. We let infantry cross through, but it's difficult ground, so -2 inches and so on. There is the physical height of it. So an infantry squad can physically hide behind you and they can't be seen anyway, so it's up to you how you want to use the terrain as far as the rules are concerned. But there's nice height to this, so you can use it as obscuring terrain. That's what we do for our games. And you get this great jungle effect. And again, the same finish involved. So we place this on the board, and then we bring in our stones, scatter, lichen, just to blend the whole thing in. Another thing you can do, this one again came as a ball. I sort of spent like £5. This large ball can break up into multiple pieces. You can see the structure of the dome of the ball just there. I actually, instead of pulling all the pieces off of this, I decided to keep chunks of it, like so, and you can then use it as movable pieces to blend in like that. So I can place that on the board, again, run the lichen in and just blend the whole thing together. So it's handy to have pieces like this because I can run this next to the ruins and the walls, and so your vegetation is not just limited to here. You can actually introduce pieces like this across the board as well. And again, nice and flexible. It's not going to break up or fall apart if you look after it well. It's terrain for life. So I hope that's a help to you. As far as, for this terrain setup, as far as painting is concerned, it's about 20 minutes of this. That's it. Everything else is pre-done for you, using a bit of spray paint, so you're getting a very, very quick result here, and you're able to fill out a full table for 40k with not much effort at all. It's just a case of finding the right materials and applying them, and then you can get the results that you see. But we'll go back to the board here so you can see the whole thing, how the whole thing comes together as a final terrain setup. So there's the centre of the board. Terrain piece goes on. My shading all matches in with the battle mat. I place that in, and then you're using random pieces of foliage. I'll tuck that in there. I think that'll look nice, just like so. Then using some lichen to blend it all in, and then my stones and scatter just to blend that into the board as well. I can introduce a little bit of 40k accessories, so here's some ammunition containers and so on, and just blend the whole thing in. Then you've got your terrain set up there, so you've got your nice ruin, stones and scatter, mixing in nicely with the battle mat. Same with the walls, some stones and scatter on there. And then we're going to put this foliage piece just here. So we'll just set that down, I think about there. Nice line of sight blocking piece of terrain. And then we'll go with a bit of lichen, just in random places. And then we'll introduce the stones and scatter. So they've been sprayed in to match in, so you notice these stones just match in with the terrain just nicely, and that just blends the whole thing in like so. And that's that terrain piece there, and it's just replicated across the board, and that's the result that you can expect to get for your games of 40k. But that's the whole thing pulled together, showing you the processes involved. So we've covered the battle mat as your foundation, some nice features as far as terrain is concerned, and then these line of sight blocking clumps of foliage, and then your little details as well, just to blend the whole thing in nicely for a nice effect. But we've played one game on this already. It's been a great backdrop for our battles, and hope to fight another battle on here as well. And just as far as storage is concerned, just break the whole thing down. So you take your larger terrain pieces off first of all, so I'd remove all these and store them away. Then I have like a large plastic container, just lift all these and drop them in. Bag up the lichen, keep that separate, and all you're left with is the stones and scatter. Just sweep those all together, put them into a bag, and then roll the mat up and clear the whole thing away. A nice fast process involved with packing up as well. So that's the tutorial. I hope that's a help to you. It'd be great to hear if anyone has success putting this together for their own games of 40k or other gaming systems as well. You could easily use this for Age of Sigmar. It'd be a nice backdrop. Also, if you're a YouTube channel membership, then share what you've been up to over on Discord. It'd be great to see pictures of what people have been up to for their own terrain setups as well. Links below for gamemat.eu for some of the specific products available from them that we've talked about in this video, and some other links just to help you out with some of the materials that have been used. But I hope that video is a help to you as you set up your own games of 40k. It's great to paint an army up, but it's also a great element of the hobby to have great terrain to play on as well. Keep a lookout for more tutorials and more terrain setups on the channel, and thanks for watching, and tune in next time.